today is a little bit different for our webinar. Normally we'll have a couple different panel guests and we'll pose questions to them and we've got some structure there. I think a little bit different for everyone coming in. Today is a conversation. So we always prepare with the framework. We're always keen to have some structure to our discussion. But really today, what we want to get across in session 5 is just a discussion around how businesses are going to get back into marketing. It's topical, it's controversial in some instances around budgets. I'll speak from a FabMag's point of view, which is media and predominantly print, but we span digital and social. We've got Tim, who, we'll go through introductions in a second, just as you guys are coming on. But Tim will talk around the real experience of really just being a big player in the market space and his previous experience in agency. And then to make us two old buggers look good, we've got Roxy, who will talk specifically on social and digitals. Roxy looks after Think Creative, which is a local social agency. And yeah, so that's really it today. So it's conversational. Also just a bit of, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, and I think what I'm really looking forward to is lots of questions. So obviously, as we go through the various topics and sort of themes for the day, I really want to encourage those participants to just fire questions as practical or as simple. If there's a burning question that you've been thinking about or a particular marketing avenue that you're potentially looking at exploring, please fire away. And I think there's sufficient experience to hopefully point you in the right direction.
I totally agree. Absolutely. Yeah. I think the point is what we're trying to do today, Tim, is what we're trying to accomplish is just a conversation with the community, and I had Jenny McCullum, she couldn't make it. She just sent me a message and, she's been through a bit of a challenge, not to preempt it, but her problem was she was going, I can't make the call. I've got a client appointment, but I really want to just understand how do I get back into business when I have no money, and I think that was just a tone of a bunch of people. So we'll set that up. Okay. So as we start to do official introductions, I think we'll see people start to join. We didn't do this last week. I said I'm a little out of practice. So I've set the tone for everyone. So welcome everybody to session 5. I'll introduce the panel in a second. Behind the scenes, we've got Sage. He's a hidden guru who handles all the tech stuff. He's commenting. So although it says from Justin, he's actually, he's behind there. He'll track questions and he'll interact with you guys. So please ask questions there. So thank you, Sage, behind the scenes. I've got Tim Johnson, who's Director Principal of CEIF North Coast. That is just one of the things he does. He's multifaceted. We are partners together in I Love Ballito and specifically around this Love Local campaign. So Tim, it's been fantastic. Welcome. We love to have you. It's been good. You're looking smooth today.
The wife finally managed to convince me to shave.
Absolutely fantastic. Fantastic. And then down at the bottom, we won't hide away from the fact that this pretty young girl has got all her mother's genes, definitely in very few of her dad's. It's Roxy Scott, and she is my daughter. So we'll put that out there, but Roxy is far more than that. She's one of those young entrepreneurial people we talk about that epitomizes, the energy of young people in Ballito. She homeschooled, finished school really young, and really just got into the world. And she's been running her own social digital agency for, what is it now, Rox? 2.5, 3 years?
Yeah, it's touching 3 years.
Yeah, touching 3 years. So she came out of school, she cut her teeth. She worked for a miserable old bugger and decided she didn't want to anymore. And so she fired me, and she's running Think Creative, and she really has come up to speed around the social and digital space. So welcome, Rox. Good to have you.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Awesome. Let's jump straight in. So I think the first thing we wanted to frame around what's going on marketing on the North Coast and, in KZN is let's talk impact of marketing during lockdown. So I'm going to stop talking in a bit. I'm going to pass it over to Tim. Maybe you can start. Just what were your views, opinions, Tim, as we get cracking? What happened to marketing in the, what is it? I think the 7 weeks or 8 weeks, I've lost track, 70 days that businesses physically closed their doors, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the normal reactions you'll see during any kind of major financial crisis. So this was obviously more than that, but it's not something that we haven't seen as far as pressure on on budgets and and the economy. So it's that age-old adage that marketing is sort of one of those first line items that tends to be scrapped. It's almost seen as a kind of nice to have, from people, and that's obviously something we want to discuss today. Is what is the real value of marketing? How do we define it? And what should we be focusing on? But it definitely was one of those items that was kind of quite easy to sort of almost scrap in many ways. So I think that there was a lot of knee-jerk sort of activity, behavior from people. I know we certainly took a step back very quickly, although we do analyze our marketing spend on a regular basis. But we obviously had to take a step back and sort of say, look, what is essential, and kind of define that for ourselves. So I think there was a lot of assessment from people. And there was obviously a lot of people that just didn't have a choice. I think just like, having to stop car payments or bond payments or any other budgetary line items. It was just simply we have to preserve cash. And I think that was the immediate reaction for any business owner. We have to preserve cash. We don't know what's going to happen over the course of the next few months. So, obviously since then, there's been a lot more sort of information and clarity, and we're kind of finding our way through this. But certainly in the beginning, it was definitely panic stations for a lot of people, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about some of those practical decisions that have been made, and perhaps how we now need to shift out of that as we move out of this initial phase of the pandemic.
Yeah, that's great insight, and I think Tim, you sharing that from a CEF and business perspective. Rox, what about you? I mean, in the social digital space, did you see a lot of your customers, squeezing budgets and dropping off from a retention point of view?
I think I had a lot of people understand the need to get their business out there. I actually saw a lot of people get started more than ever before. A lot of my clients, yes, they may have closed their doors, but they understand how they can still speak their brand, and that there are certain things that you can do online, even though your business isn't an online business. So I think I saw more of a shift to the get started point of view than the whole, is this a necessity? I really, really saw so many people just wanting to get started, wanting to, now that they had the time, to start Facebook pages, start marketing, and really get their brand out there. So yeah, more than anything else, I really saw people just start jumping the gun, I guess.
And that goes to, I think, the fact that a lot of people were online, right? We know that everyone was talking about the fact that you were locked at home with nothing to do. So, where else to spend the time, which was Facebook and the social platforms. So I guess that's why business drove there.
Yeah, Rox, influence more. Yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry, I just wanted to ask you something on that. In your view, I mean, you say a lot of people started. I absolutely concur. I think that's certainly something that we saw and from our own team, which, I'll touch on later. But from your perspective, do you think it's because they already knew that it was important to get onto sort of social, digital, but just never had the time or inclination prior? Or do you think that they shifted their view and go, actually, I have to be on this, and maybe it wasn't something that I was considering as being essential previously, but now I realize that I have to get on? What was your interpretation of that?
Honestly, I think it was a mixture of the two. I think ultimately everyone knows that social is something that they need in their business. And a lot of people just haven't had the time to communicate that, or find a place to get started, or find someone to get started. So I think now that people had the time, they went, right, this is the only way I can do business, and start something different, and find a bit of a side hustle, or find a bit of an online way to, whether it be sell products or something along those lines. And then a lot of people just had the time to go out there and either find someone or watch some tutorials and figure out how to start a Facebook page and how to really get started. Yeah, so I definitely think mixture of the two. I think it really depends on the person. Some people always had the time, but just never wanted to make the effort or didn't have that necessity for it. Going into lockdown, I think a lot of people had to make that move very quickly.
Yeah. I think if I, and I know I'm hosting, but also just to share from a print perspective, and that's something we want to bring to the table. And I think key also to talk about not just our print, but let's talk about the industry in general. But from a FabMags point of view, it was quite strange for us, because we experienced the same thing as everybody else. We experienced that the businesses that we work with, across the 14 brands we have probably close to 1,000 customers. And a majority of them did what you said, Tim. They just literally locked up budgets, and they took a very conservative, careful approach to spend. That said, during the lockdown and prior to lockdown, we continued to publish pretty much all our magazines, physical print. So all our state-based magazines that we do, all printed, all got distributed. The Who magazine came out just around that time. You know, the economy was starting to take a bit of a hurt, sort of February, March. As we went into lockdown, we thought a lot of our customers would bail. You know, they knew the mag was coming out. They knew that would come out around that lockdown stage, and then we'd only distribute after. And yet they stayed committed to it, which was really, really strange for us. You know, so our big brands, sort of our flagship brands, the Ballito, the Mhlongo, and the Estates, they had to go digital. You know, they have big print cost. And I mean, it wasn't just the big print cost and the fact that budgets were there. We just couldn't physically print. You know, printers weren't allowed to put paper out. So from a magazine point of view, and I think a print point of view, and we saw that in our fellow competitors and fellow guys in the industry, you know, the Get It also went, you know, they went digital. We saw the newspapers obviously dropping in size. But it was weird because most people would think print was decimated, and it wasn't. People stayed committed to that form. I don't know how much longer they'll stay committed, you know, because budgets are tight. But knowing going into lockdown, it was quite strange for us and good for us. It was nice to know that, you know, print product was still happening.
Just, you know, I think I think what's important for us to take, you know, sort of cognizant of is the fact that things before this period, you know, weren't exactly, you know, all rainbows and unicorns, as I've said before, you know. And we've been through a number of crises and challenges that I think have made us all look at our overall budgets and obviously marketing, because that's the discussion for today in particular. And so I don't think that you'll find that those people that were in print or any channel for that matter, a traditional channel, let's put it that way, were sort of you know, testing the water, so to say. You know, I think those people, you know, there's probably a lot of people that understand these channels and probably understand what kind of messaging they want to put out and why they use these channels. And you'll obviously find all new entrants and people still in that early phase where they're trying to figure out what works for their business. But I think that we've been through that. So it's also important to, you know, for those, also for publications and for platforms to look at themselves, you know, and say, well, you know, were we relevant before? You know, were we offering value before this this time? Because all that this did was cast a big spotlight on the value proposition that these that all of these channels offered us. So, you know, okay, so print is one element, and obviously we've got the other elements of marketing. So we can talk everything from print, outdoor media, eventing, obviously digital and social as a channel, you know. CRM functions, which are very much part of marketing, you know, which forms part of that digital space. So all of these different platforms, okay, people have obviously been assessing for a long time. So I think that hopefully, and it's sad to say because you kind of see the impact. We've seen some of the largest publications that have been in business for just over 50, 60 years in some cases, you know, big brands like House and Leisure and you know, Cosmopolitan and these sorts of print brands, for example, that have shut their doors, you know. But the real question is, were they offering value to their advertisers prior to this? And was that not just an inevitable trend that we were heading on? So I think on that, it's important to discuss from a marketing mix perspective for us as you know, as people that are looking to advertise and looking for channels. Why would we use those channels? And going forward out of this this sort of terrible, you know, disruption, let's be honest, in our businesses and in our lives, what are we going to retain? And I think that almost brings us to that to the part of the discussion, which is, you know, we've got to look at the channels, but we have to look at what we are saying. How are we using these channels? And I've got, you know, there's a lot of insights and sort of shares that you know that I've got, I suppose, over a long period of time, you know, as to the mistakes that we've made in using certain channels and how we've maybe had to shift our thinking about how those channels work best.
I agree. And I think it's so true that you say that. So I'll go back, you know, Associated Press, they closed down a whole bunch of their magazines, like you said. Caxton as a group also took some strain in their paid for titles. Hyper community mags, like, you know, in the space that we do, they continue to thrive, they continue to do well. The printers will be there, but the brands will be strong. People still want hyper community. And it goes back to what you're saying, Tim, that, whether it's print, whether it's digital, social, people want to, they're interested in local business. The Love Local thing was a great example. We all watched webinars of people all around the world telling us what to do. And the minute we turned around and said, guys, let's talk to people in our own backyard, people loved it. They wanted to see local faces. And so that's super, super key. But you're absolutely right. The channels are really, really important, and the content you put on there. Don't put crappy content into a channel. It just won't result in good returns. There's no magic wand for marketing. But Rox, we spoke earlier and you chatted about it. And I know we were around a little bit, but Roxy was telling me pre the meeting about some clients wanting to come on board and say, for example, use Facebook as almost the holy grail to marketing. Because they believe it's going to work, but they're a startup, they don't have good product, they don't have good material and content, and then they wobble along. So, maybe share a bit more. I don't want to steal the thunder from you, but that goes back to what Tim was talking about, the quality of content and the story you tell, right?
Yeah, ultimately you want to start, and I don't want to, demotivate people from getting started, but all you need to remember is that this is your brand. Whether you start now or you start in 3 years, your brand is always going to be your brand, and your brand needs to have a voice. And if you're like a bit confused, or you're not sure what you want from this business currently, and you're just putting things out and it's half decent quality and you're expecting it to blow up, and all that everyone else is confused, all you're going to do is confuse people as to what you do and what you're offering. It's just more of the quality and the consistency of having content that speaks to who you are as a business and what you do, rather than just trying to throw something out and make it work. Because at the end of the day, the chance of that working by you just, spraying and praying is really not going to happen. You need to have consistency. You can't put something out, whether it's an advert, a social media post, a paid for ad on Facebook. You can't just put it out and not have an idea what you want from that post. Every post needs to have an action, to, okay, this post is going to be for sale. This post is going to chat to who my brand is. This post is going to introduce my team. You really need to chat just specifically about the action behind every single post you do. And that, I guess, brings out the whole quality of content.
Would you say, Tim, and Rox, it's interesting because we've had this experience, sadly, we've had some customers like in the print space that have sent us their ads in Word, design in MS Word. So they haven't made the investment in getting the artwork really looking good. Do we think that maybe even here on the North Coast, that a lot of guys just jump in thinking that putting out anything is better than nothing, without thinking through the story they want, the message, the content, what's the call to action? What are we physically telling the people of the North Coast when we market?
Just, what's interesting about that question is that if you as a company, as a brand, don't understand what your message is, what you're all about yourself, it's impossible to communicate that to your customer, to the community. So I think one of the biggest challenges, honestly, that we have is that a lot of business owners, when they think about marketing, or it might be individuals, might be a sole proprietor, someone that's independent, that wants to sell themselves and their service. Doesn't matter how big or small you are, understanding how you want people to perceive you and what your value proposition is and how you want people to view your brand is critical. So, certainly in my previous life, I've worked with hundreds of brands, mainly small and medium people. And one of the first things that I would encourage them to do is actually write down and create this. We actually refer to it as a vivid description. What is the vivid description of how you want your customer to view you and your brand? And it's amazing that when you actually go through that process of putting down your service, your unique value proposition, how you want them to perceive you in writing, it's amazing what comes from that, because you kind of question yourself, you question it, and you go, okay, well, this is important to my brand, this is important to me. And what happens from that is that the picture starts to become vivid. And as you understand what you are, okay, then now your advertising channels and how to get there and everything become much easier. And the messaging and how you package that message becomes a much easier task. But in all honesty, the reason why there's so much confusion, and to Rox's point, if I don't know what I want to say, then I'm going to waste money. And just we've spoken about it. Like,
Yeah.
someone's going to take an ad in your magazine and say, okay, I'm spending 10,000 Rand on a full page ad, and they'll just sit back and look at their phone and wait for it to ring, but it could be completely and utterly wasted because the messaging didn't hit the mark. No one understands what they're about. It might be shooting too high, too low, too confusing, too vague. And then they're going to come to you and say, I want my money back.
Yeah.
And so that talks to that person that just gives you a Word document and says, yeah, you put the ad together. It's, they're not putting enough thought. So I really, I certainly would encourage those business owners to commit to what they are, what they're about. Okay. And the rest becomes a bit easier, to be honest. And I would just now, we'll share something. I really want to share some practical examples of I suppose what we've done over the years and how we've made mistakes and maybe shifted to hit the mark with our messaging.
Yeah, agree. Yeah. But also the guys mustn't be scared to ask for help. I'm thinking, I use nice analogies, but Joe the plumber, Jessie the nail lady, I was going to say Fricky the hairdresser, but maybe it's not Fricky, but the local people, they, for someone running their business, this is daunting, and so I think that's the challenge for a lot of the stuff that we're seeing is that when we get artwork through and we're chatting to guys about marketing, it's not that people don't know they don't know what to say, but they have a lot to say that's not the right stuff. So a lot of the time we find like we flooded, ads are just so busy. What you want to do is in a half-page ad or on a little social post, you want to put 25 bullet points and tell, you're just vomiting onto people. Like it's over, but it's not well structured. So Rox, what about you? Digital and social, I guess a little bit more than print. I'll give it to that. Has some great ability to use the space nicely. It's, you can have video, you can have all sorts of stuff. So what do you think about the content creation? What are you experiencing with your customers?
To be fair, marketing is marketing. So we all feel the same, whether it's someone saying, I want to do one social media post and I want these 25 bullet points, or they send you a print ad and it's 25 bullet points. The same type of person is going to send me what they send you. So it's really about sitting down and being like, listen, you need to sort this out. We can't have 25 bullet points in a post. We need to go through exactly what you want. Put it in, post 3 times a day if you have the content for it. But all you're saying is, no, I'm going to do this one post with the 25 different things in it, and then I'm done. And I'm not going to do another post for the next 2 weeks. And I'm like, people need to see your brand. They need to engage with your brand. You need to keep the discussion going. They don't just want sell. They want some knowledge. They want to meet your team. They want to figure out who you are as a business. And they kind of invest in that more than they invest into, I'm sure you saw it in the magazines that now people aren't coming to you during this time and committing to adverts because they just want to. They've seen the quality of what they're putting out and what it's bringing to their business. And ultimately they invest in you as a business, and they invest in what your team offers and who the team is. And it's the same with social media. You need to understand that it really is. It's not about screaming in people's faces. It's about talking to them, building that relationship. And I think that's the underlying message of any marketing, regardless of what you do. Like, your content creation shouldn't be about, this is my focus for this month. It should be about, like, what am I giving to people this month? I think that's the most important key aspect.
That's strong. I want to, and maybe move away from the content stuff. Tim, you're welcome to jump in and it's a conversation, but I'm not knocking it. We're a fan of it. We're on it in terms of the social platforms. But I want to speak some truths today around across the platforms. You spoke to it earlier. Like, if choose a channel, know that channel is going to deliver for you. Know what message you're going to put in it, right? What we've seen, and Roxy, you've seen this, is there's this big drive all of a sudden to social, and specifically Facebook. Is Facebook the holy grail for businesses as they come out of lockdown? Is that where everyone needs to go to? I know it's a strange question, but I ask it because I believe in our interactions with businesses, as they say, budgets are tight, that's where they're going to feel they need to go. They're going to feel that Facebook must deliver value, right? So to you two, is it?
I'm not sure what Tim thinks. Personally, I just say, you know what, rather spend, you have an X amount of budget, fine, someone who's willing to fit into that budget and give you a lot more for your money. You don't, when you're starting out, you're trying to get your business back out there, do the 2 posts a week instead of the post every single day, but then have your advert in the newspaper or have your advert in a magazine, and get onto the podcast and get onto Life and Style Radio and really put yourself out there. There's no limit to the amount of places you can put your business. So it's really about maximizing your budget, I guess, and put yourself on as many platforms as possible. Facebook's great, but at the end of the day, you just creating a Facebook page is not going to be the thing that turned you into a millionaire. You really need to speak to people about it. You need to put your business in front of people's faces, and that is all over. Yeah, as much as we're looking at a phone now, you need to understand people look at their mailbox every single day. Why aren't you sending out newsletters? That could be your customers' holy grail. It's all about where your customer is looking. I mean, personally, if you're an online store, yes, people are looking online. But if you're a magazine, they're not looking online for you. That is a part of your business, but they're looking for the print, and you need to find where your customer is. Yeah,
agree. Tim?
Yeah, so I mean, okay, I'll say something that's maybe a bit different. I mean, I agree in part with what Rox is saying, but I think what she touched on is the most important thing, and that's the customer. And I think that it's almost a moot point to discuss what channels you're going to utilize if you don't identify who your customer is. So that's what Rox was basically saying. So find those channels that talk to your customer. Now, how do you do that? There's this like crazy thing. It's called market research. It's called communicating with your existing customers. Okay, and I think that that's the biggest thing that gets overlooked by business owners. I have so many conversations. I enjoy having these conversations. I had one last night with friends of ours, mutual friends of ours, who run a particular business in the media space, and we were just chatting about it, going, marketing like this, and we're going to be doing this chat tomorrow, and what are your thoughts? And one of the things that we discussed was, what are you doing for your existing customer base? Why are we talking about spending money when budget is tight on trying to find new customers, when I've got a Rolodex or a whatever you've got, of customers that currently know my brand, know my service, business, product, whatever it might be, and I'm almost neglecting them because I'm taking them for granted potentially, and I'm sort of assuming that they're going to come do business with me, rather than looking at them as absolutely critical, vital, to my initial survival initially, and then to allow me to flourish. So my message on that would be, let's look at practical things right now. Let's assume that all these channels, they're all available, but they're all going to cost money, aren't they? I mean, absolutely, you can go do social. Ultimately, it's going to cost money at some point in time, whether you're paying an expert or you're doing paid ads or whatever it is. If you want to go on radio, it's a great channel. It's a nice way for people to hear your voice. We've got a good relationship with the guys here at Life and Style. It's a good channel to reach people in a very quick, sort of effective way. But the reason it is because they can hear your voice. Okay. Print media, eventing, outdoor, they're all great options. Not all at the same time necessarily, and they all cost money. But the most important thing is, if I'm using it, how am I doing using it to talk to my existing customer first and foremost? Okay, because I think you'll be surprised. And when I asked the client, these friends / colleagues yesterday, how many clients, existing customers, have you got? And they were like looking at each other, going, I think it's 100. And then they were like, no, babe, it's like 300. And they're like, no, it's probably like 1,000. And I was like, okay, well, guys, look, work it out. Okay, figure out where they are. Okay, like
start a spreadsheet.
Get the spreadsheets. I don't, dust off the Rolodex if that's what needs to be done, and figure out where they are. Okay, and then just start. Send a WhatsApp, make a phone call. You don't need a world-class CRM facility to just phone a customer and just see how they're doing. And it is amazing during this time. This will be like a little experience share, okay? And we're not perfect at this, make no mistake, but we sort of, like everyone else, we struggle along and we try and do the best. We have to keep reminding ourselves that our existing customers are critical. But what we've really enjoyed seeing is that during this time, and certainly during lockdown, our phone call to a customer, just to chat. It wasn't to make a sale. It wasn't to, push an agenda or anything like that. We had Myrtle in our office, and she loves chatting, and she's amazing with our customers. And she was just phoning, a lot of our customers just to chat. And she gave us feedback saying, during this time, some of those customers hadn't even had anyone to speak to. for like weeks, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just a simple act of just being in touch with your customer. So honestly, like on that, the message that I, you know, strongly have to say is, you know, before you start worrying about how to spend money on new customers, figure out who your current customers are, and then figure out the best forms of communication to chat with them. Okay. So, and also very, very important, it's like the age-old thing in sales. I laugh about it all the time. You've neglected some customers. Okay, we've all neglected customers. Okay. You haven't spoken to a customer in 2 or 3 years even. Okay. And what happens is you get embarrassed. Now you see them in the spa, in the aisle, and you start avoiding them. Okay. You're like, you know, you don't know why you avoided them. It's just, you know, that you haven't followed up with them or you haven't like chatted with them for a while. Okay. And the best way to deal with that is to disarm them, phone them and say, do you know what? I've been a bit of a doers. I was meaning to call you. I was meaning to call you. Time passed. I didn't. I was actually quite embarrassed about the fact that I didn't call you. But you know what? I've decided that you are important enough to me that I wanted to call you and touch base. And I hope that you can accept my apology. And I just want to engage and see how you're doing. Do you know what?
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. That customer, that one customer has got their own network, their own influence, their own, you know, they're also a human being. They've probably also dropped in a customer of their own. They will understand. So it's just, that's a very strong message I want to drive home. You know, is really focus on your existing customer right now. It's never been a more important time.
Yeah, I like the points, and I think that the difference with whether it's a phone call or a WhatsApp, it's and I keep going back to the social space because I think it's where a lot of the local businesses are going to push to, you know, and the digital space as we come out of lockdown. And that's not a bad thing. You know, there is space for print, and we know print will have its place, and Fabmags is doing well. But as we go there, I think the people are going to lose exactly that point, which is before you try to get new customers, before you try to be innovative, you know, trying to get all this brand marketing stuff together, which you can do. Have you checked in with your existing customers? You know, those guys that love you, know, you don't have to be sexy for them. You know, they like you, warts and all. They've got history with you. They hate them. We know each other. So, and so, you know, it's a thing that you can pick up the phone and go, hey, I've been a bit of a doers, and the guy will chuckle and, you know, or have a chat to a guy like Brett who tells you he's going to kick an old man for a beer. You know, that's what you laugh about. You're not in sell mode. And that's, I think, there's another thing that's got to be careful. You know, when you come out of this thing and you now need money, the first thing I would caution against is, it doesn't matter what platform you come out, don't go hard sell, because everyone's constrained. Everyone's felt the pain. Everyone wants to connect first before they get to the task stuff. You know, be sincere and genuine and authentic in asking, how are you? You know, when a guy turns around and says, my business is stuffed, you don't want to go, well, do you want to take an ad? I mean, that's, you know, the guy goes, I've got no money. Like, okay, but just take this. We'll let you pay it off.
Just,
you know.
He's a colleague, a sort of colleague, a friend, but he's trying to sell me a service, okay, in our sector. And he pitched this service to me, and then I hadn't spoken to him in a couple of weeks. And then he sent me a WhatsApp and he said, like, winky face, so are we doing this? You know, and I said to him, listen, that's a horrendous pickup line. You know, it's, you know, you have to go and take me out for dinner first, you know, before we, you know, it's just, and I know that he was joking and we have that relationship, you know, but again, to your point, it's yes, there's got to be a little bit of a rebuilding of trust. There's got to be a little bit of a, you know, guys, we've been through some cuck, haven't we? Like, how are you? Because like, I don't know about you, but like we bled, you know, so, you know, and then you just share those experiences, talk about it. And that can happen via phone, WhatsApp, sending emails out, being honest with people. You know, you don't have to pretend like, you know, everything was perfect, you know, because that is insincere. It's disingenuous. You know, there's very few sectors out there that have like survived this, you know, without retrenchments or, you know, cutting of major costs or losing of clients or whatever. So yes, we want to be positive and we are doing the best, but we haven't escaped it. So just be honest, I think, in that communication with someone, and take your time, and ease back into that relationship, but start. I think that's what we're saying is start the conversation at least. So, and that talks to like the messaging thing that's so important, you know, the whole time. So if you're now starting, and now take that same attitude towards rebuilding a relationship, take that same attitude as if you were having a conversation one-on-one with someone, and then see how that can be applied into your various channels. So if it's social, as Rock says, it's not hard sell. It's like, whoo, dust is settling. This is how we're doing. This is what we've done. This is how we've come out of it. How you doing? It's a conversation. Hey, and if it's print, it's the same thing. Hey, it's so it's don't view the channels as being different to how you would just talk to someone one-to-one. It's really important. Marketing is not like it shouldn't be a glossy facade. There's times where that's necessary, you gloss over it, but I think that we've just come through a period where people won't view your glossy facade with much, I don't know, they won't view it as genuine.
People want authentic. I was thinking, Rox, for you, Tim was talking about building trust, and I like the word authentic. I mean, it's got to be pretty cool, right? That you can build that trust on social. So in magazines, we'll tell stories. People will come to us, and maybe our stories over the next couple of editions will be how people survived this and the challenges they had and how they're getting back on track. But I agree, our stories can't be, hey, everything's 100%, we didn't have an issue. But for you, like, you could have an awesome picture of someone opening their door, with the dust on the door, or a picture of someone dusting down their desk and going, I'm back. So you can build trust and have great storytelling visually, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like, you have to think of social media as much as you're trying to promote your business. I mean, there's a lot of people that have Facebook just to find humor in it. I mean, all they do on Facebook is watch funny videos and memes, and now all you're doing is just everyone's like trying to get back into it, and you're just trying to sell them, and they're like, I have no money, like, thanks, but no thanks. Like, you creating a bit of humor around it, or even using the ability, like a social media story, so like an Instagram or Facebook story, to just honestly be real and be like, I've had the worst day, it's been a shit day, I'm miserable, like, sorry guys, no posters going on today because I have no money to buy a social media manager, and just kind of create that really real conversation around it. It's there for 24 hours, it's gone, it's not forever on your feed. Like, people see it and they're like, okay, I kind of feel the same way right now, like, I got you. And the amount of people that have been reacting to those type of stories currently, where people are just being like, I'm tired of this, I want to reopen, or I'm so excited to be back. It's like, the people are like, you've got this, and we're supporting you, and we back you, or we can't wait to see you come back. It's really like brought the community back together, I guess, in a way. Like, that's what I've seen personally, is so many people are willing to not even find a sense of humor, but just really be like, it's okay. Like, we as your customer, the moment you're either able to open, or the moment I'm able to support you, like, I'm going to. But maybe it's also just about the support, and once again, the relationship. But I'm not going to support you if during this time all you're trying to do is sell me, and you haven't supported me once. Like, hey, I've got a coffee shop down the road and I've never seen you in your coffee shop, and now you want me to buy an ad from you, or you want to try to sell something to me. It's like, maybe why don't you do a favor and, like, let's start a relationship, let's have a coffee, even though we're going to stand 2 meters away from each other, have a laugh, and create that reel. So when they see you on social media and they see the reel, they're like, okay, this person is genuine. The person that I saw and the person that I'm seeing is the exact same person.
I agree. I want to share a story on this, guys, which is great. It's a little bit off, and Roxy, 100%. The love local and how people look after community is so important. Have that coffee. And Mom Lorinda was saying the other day that we love Woolworths, we buy stuff from there, but if there's someone local who's selling avos, go buy the avos from someone. It's not going to kill you. I mean, Ballito is so damn small. Don't be lazy. Yes, it's nice to park in front of Woolies and then get in your car and go and park in front of Spar. You can walk that distance. So
I mean, avos are expensive regardless of where you go.
Exactly.
Avos are expensive.
Avos are expensive, and it's a good example. But the local guys are struggling. So Woolies will survive. So that was the one. Is just support local. Figure out, like, we went down, and I'll name the name. So we're walking on the promenade, and we get back, and I stand in line for Concha, and they're selling coffee, and I'm so, I'm miserable. I've done the long walk, and I look and I go, this is a 30-minute wait. And I say to Lorinda, I'm like, let's go to Woolworths and go buy the coffee there. And she goes, no, we're supporting Concha. Woolworths will be fine. Will Diego and the guys be okay? We're going to wait for 30 minutes. Suck it up. And I did. And I felt great about it. So that's, that love local. And then a little bit outside of town, some, also a part of the woods.
Sorry, can I ask you something on that?
Yeah,
I think I just want to chime in on Concha, because I want to talk about why you would say that. Okay.
Yeah.
The reason that you feel that way about, let's say, that as a brand is because that brand gives back a lot to its customers. Okay.
Absolutely.
Way before this time. Okay. It's a brand that has been doing salsa, on Sunday afternoons in the car park. It's a brand that it's a team of people that is absolutely engaged, and they're visible, and you feel like you feel like you know them. You feel like you know the team there.
Yeah.
So it's not a mistake, that during this time you would wait that extra half an hour. And so I think for those people, listening and watching, they need to take those case studies, and they've got to go, why have these businesses survived during this time? Why would we wait half an hour? Why would we go and support them? Because they have given us over an extended period of time, consistently. They've looked after their customers. They've communicated well. They've offered value. That's why we supported them. Because you're not saying that for every place, just.
No, agree.
You're going to have a handful of things. So that's the real thing. Is my brand strong enough to survive this type of horrendous disruption? Okay, and maybe if it isn't, then I should be taking lessons from the brands around that are surviving, and start at least working towards my offering, my messaging, my giving back to the community, because then I will future-proof my business. And
okay.
Sorry, and I didn't want to, but that was, I think it's important to point that out,
And it leads into what I was going to say second, which is I want to talk quickly about our Midlands magazine. In this time of crisis, when we really thought things would go pear-shaped, I mean, we would love to believe that Ballito and Umhlanga is the economic hub of KZN, and the Midlands is the Midlands. The Midlands was the only one of our 4 flagship magazines in lockdown that hit targets, sold out, and produced a print mag. There were restaurants there that were closed, knowingly closed. They were like, guys, we can't open, who took ad space. And it was a case. Their whole philosophy was, Brito, who runs sales up there, is a local, and they were like, listen, we're gonna support each other. Hey, you guys in the Midlands mag, you did stories on us when we didn't take ads. You promoted the area. You came in and you trusted us with bringing a brand here, and so we're gonna help you. And that was just unbelievable to see. It was just unbelievable that the local support of each other. Like I was going, I can't spend a fortune, but I can spend something. I can help you with something. Was absolutely great. So I think it goes back to that building trust, the authenticity. It doesn't matter what platform, whether it's Facebook rocks or it's print or, Tim, it's something else, it's radio. We'll tie behind the brands who are genuine and who we trust, I think is the point.
Yeah, and I mean, I saw Stan, put a question up there, and it was talking about sort of how you use call it social channels, for messaging versus, like, let's call it things that are kind of more physically visible, like in magazines or newspaper stands or whatever. So it's like there's different types of advertising, and to me, one of the best parts of digital, social, video, even radio, podcasts. The best thing about it is that I can get to know you as a service provider and a business. Okay, it's without a shadow of a doubt the number one reason why you should be considering looking at these channels. And it doesn't matter how rudimentary that message is. If it is a selfie video, of you in your business, talking about what you're doing there and what's happening, but you do it consistently. And it's not about me. It's about kind of me in the context of business and kind of what we're doing in the community and what's happening day to day, and also send messaging that like shows that you've got your finger on the pulse, what's happening in the community. It's not about glossy production. It's just about sharing that message. And guaranteed, the brands that are seen as the go-to, they're the ones that I feel like this business owner is like engaged. Those are the ones that they engage with. So that's the core difference. Like people, and I'm gonna like lay something quite honest on the line here, seen as we're amongst friends, is that I've had a lot of people that talk to, sort of ask me about my kind of role, let's say within Seif, as a business. And like, you love the limelight, you like always there, and you're always in the, and I don't think that that's necessarily true. I think that I'm comfortable, I'm comfortable communicating, and I'm comfortable in the limelight. I mean, I'm just an estate agent, let's be honest. But I think that what I've understood a long time ago, was that our customers and the community needs to trust and understand who the people are behind these brands. That's what I've understood. So if I'm not writing about what's happening in the market, or I'm not writing about the history of the place, or I'm not trying to at least do a podcast, as I've done, about talking about the place and showing how passionate I am about the area, or I'm not partnering with great partners like you guys on doing things like Love Local, even though I've got this banner behind me here, we're doing this, but we're doing this, with authenticity, honestly. I mean, I know that's like, saying I'm authentic doesn't mean I'm authentic, but I genuinely, believe that. So I think that that's the message, is you've got to get out there and you've got to show people that you care and whatever. So what platforms you use to do that, okay, is going to be determined by your budget. It's going to be determined by your experience, what help you have, all of the above. But get the messaging right. And as I said earlier, understand what your brand is so that you can get that messaging right. And if you do that, you will stand out, because this town, it's like the age-old analogy, it's a gold rush town. Where people want to be, where people want to live, and where there's growth, across all sectors, there is going to be massive competition. It is just the way that it is. So in our sector, we've probably got 50, 60 different real estate brands operating in the area, okay? It's natural, it's normal. In fact, there's other areas in the country where you've got more than that. Whether it be media, whether it be restaurants. I mean, we've got the highest per individual, okay, concentration of restaurants and stuff in this area in the country. It's crazy, So competition is rough. So how are you going to stand out against that competition?
Yeah.
You've got, and the only thing, honestly, in most cases that's unique about your business is you, because the other business doesn't have you.
But you're right.
It's as simple as that.
Think about, I mean, Roxy, we were chuckling earlier when we started the session saying you behind the scenes. So most people don't see your face. So I'm chuffed that you're here today, and people need to see more of you and others that need to get in front of it. But we can rattle off, guys, the people that created great brands, and it became the people, so it's Brett from Mozambique. It's Diego from Concha, it's Marco from La Piazza. It's woman Olivia from Palm Lakes. As you talk through the brands, it's funny how you say the brand, you think the person, and it's because that person in one way or another was connected to the community. So you're absolutely right, Tim. It's when you think Fab Mags, you think Lorinda, not Justin. So it's because she makes stuff happen.
I get the opposite.
Yeah.
Roxy will
I get
know this.
I get you're Justin and Lorinda's daughter. I'm like, yep. They're like, they do the Bleeder magazine. Yep, that's them. Thanks very much.
You'll be taking over soon, Rox. Don't worry.
Soon. Guys, go for it, Tim.
Rox will know this, because Rox has, again, a shameless plug, but she's been assisting us with social media, in our business. But what's been interesting is to talk about marketing. We've got, agents and people, and it'll be the same for any other business owner, that have almost been reluctant to put their faces out there. How, sort of seems strange that, like an estate agent wouldn't want to put their face out there, because they'd be happy to stick their face on any bin, around town, But for some reason on digital and social and whatever, they've been quite reluctant,
And they get a bit nervous.
And yet that's changing. And even so much that on their social media handles, their Facebook handles, it would be something like North Coast Property, as opposed to Tim Johnson, North Coast Agent, or Tim Johnson, Belito Property. And it's that shift, from actually going, no, hang on, in my business, I can't hide behind my staff. I can't hide behind my, my business or my product. Let me put myself out there. And yes, it's uncomfortable. And not everyone can talk on video, and not everyone's going to feel comfortable. But that's what you have to work towards doing. because they want people in this community want to know about the people behind the brand, behind the service. So
See,
it's
Rox.
this uncomfortable truth.
Rox has got to get in front of the brand more, Rox. So guys, in the
I
interest
try
of
my
time,
best every now and then.
oh, you do great. We've got
Thanks.
7 minutes, and I think what I want to try and do is wrap up with, and it's a good discussion. I saw Jeannie from Ashton. Thanks for the point. She was just saying, back to what we said, customer relationships are key, and she has been reaching out to customers during the lockdown just to see if they need anything. That stuff is super valuable. So thanks, Jeannie. I want to start to wrap up with, what can people take away? So great. We've spoken about what happened during lockdown. We've spoken quite a bit about like what should people be thinking and heading towards coming out of lockdown. Brand, trust, make sure your image is good, make sure you know what content you've got. But now what we've got to do is, the rubber strikes the tar, and we've got to go, great, between the three of us, what are the 3 or 4 takeaways that people can really go, hey, it's tough. I don't have a lot of budget. I hear all the stuff you're saying, just help me. So that's what I want to move to. And Rox, I want to start with you, because a lot of people, I do believe, will go to the platforms. So I've got questions like, what is the algorithm, and will it help me? Does it play against me? How do, what is reach? What is like? What's engagement? How do I just understand all of this, while I have no money? So, what are your tips for people? What should they be doing if they're heading towards social and digital?
I mean, like we said it the whole time. It's all about just really getting started. So I like what Tim said a few minutes ago, just about how as much as you can get started, you need to plan what you're doing. So I mean, before anything else, take the time that you have now. Don't just put it out there and get it wrong. Start figure out what your brand is, what you want to offer people, the relationship you want to have with people, and then get onto social. And from there, I mean, honestly, there's so many tools out there. If you Google what is reach, it's going to sit there and it's going to tell you. The algorithm is constantly changing. If you're not keeping up to date with it, the messages you're putting out are completely pointless. Because if you're putting a post out at 4 a.m. when you wake up and you go for a run, and you're like, this is the time I'm awake, so everyone else is on social media, like, chances are it's not. There are things like page insights for a reason, where you can go look when your customers are active. That changes, it fluctuates just purely depending on like your week and how people are doing. So you can constantly keep up to date with when your people are online. So it's just a matter of really figuring out your business, putting it on social, getting started, and Googling, figuring out how to do a post, figuring out what's the best tools to do a post. What are hashtags? I mean, yeah, they search engine optimization, but do I do a hashtag that has absolutely nothing to do with my business because I know people are going to search it? Like, chances are no, because people are not looking for you there. If you put something related, like support local, Belito, I love Belito, like there are so many hashtags behind that. So it's just a matter of figuring out what you want from your social media, and getting started Googling, doing your research, or finding someone that can sit with you and say, okay, this is it. This is how you get started. This is what reaches. This is what impressions are really.
And I want to, and it's not a shameless plug of Roxy, but I do want to support what you're saying, Rox. A lot of guys are going to come out there and, whether it's the plumber or the electrician, they don't understand the stuff. And like you'll say, hey, go Google it, go understand it. It's never going to be in their wheelhouse. It's not what they want to intrinsically understand. But I think a lot of guys understand they need to market. I was saying, if you were closed for the whole lockdown and for whatever reason you open now, don't make the assumption that people know you open. You have to be able to tell people, hey, I'm back. I survived it, and we're trading. So I think people must use people like yourself, and there's other people out there as well, but don't be scared to spend a few bucks on spending some time with someone, getting them to tell you, hey, here's what you need to worry about. Here's what you need to do. I think a lot of businesses out there don't know how to plan. They don't know what their, what their business proposition is and the unique selling points. And so they're going to need help, and they're going to need people out there, Tim, like you, who have conversations with people to go, one, think about it, but two, if you don't know, get someone to help you. You can spend a ton of time on Google, but you might just end up burning a whole ton of time. Sometimes having a quick conversation with someone is way easier in localized context. So yeah, fair point.
I mean, it goes to everything. I mean, I don't try to do and fix my toilet because I'm not a plumber. I don't know what I'm doing. So ultimately I can try Google it and I'm going to find something, and it might work for a few days, but like, I'm just gonna leave it in the plumber's hands. So like it's the
Yeah.
same with social media. Like I don't want to drive you away from getting started. Yes, it's confusing. Yes, it's a big world. But ultimately, if you have a computer and a phone, you can navigate it. You might not do the best job, but you're doing better than just keeping silent. I mean, they say Facebook and Instagram is the new Google. It's the new search engine. Because
Yeah.
how many times have I gone to Google recently and searched in business hours? I go to the shop and the shop's closed, and I'm like, great. Go search on Facebook and it's a giant sign that says we are closed for lockdown level 3, and I'm like, I could have just searched that on Facebook. And a lot of people are going to that. I mean, it's a constant update. Oh, we're open this week. We're not open next week. Like just letting people know to what you are. Like it is a search engine, I guess.
Yeah. Tim, I'm gonna let you close. So I'm gonna finish with mine, and then we're gonna wrap up. So here's my takeaways from a print. But remember, we're not just print. We print and we call ourselves a media shop. So with our brands, we have social positions. People don't realize that about our magazines. You know, we've got on the Ballito tens of thousands of people who follow us, and we vested in I Love Ballito as a brand. But here's the takeaway. So one, print isn't dead. I think people need to understand that it needs to be part of a mix. That they look at so people saying, hey, I'm getting going, cool. Find a channel that relates to your budget, know what content you want to put out there. Print can or can't be part of that story. You know, it's always going to depend on budget. Print is a little bit more tactile and print lasts a little bit longer. And what I mean by that is, you know, depending on the type of brand, whether you product to price or not, but the one thing we can say about print, and we've always said it, is there's a magic that happens between your finger and a piece of paper, which is very different to scrolling and flipping through Facebook. So Facebook will get that reach, but if we had to try and correlate print back to things like impressions, reach, and likes, you know, don't discount print in terms of the value it can bring. It has great storytelling ability. It sits next to your bed at night. I always joke and say it's the second most intimate thing you put in your bedroom apart from your spouse, you know, because you touch it and it's next to your bed and it stays with you for a period of time. And understand, if we do 10,000 copies of a magazine, that's 10,000 copies, like Stan was saying, that you physically see. You come past the brand often. You know, you pick it up. So you'll go, oh, on Facebook, I got 300 likes. Well, in our magazines, we can go, if you go into our magazine, you have 10,000 reach guaranteed, because every mag goes, everyone picks it up. You know, when people read it, we've got to associate the channel. So I think my takeaway with the Fab Mags hat on is, don't think print isn't an option. It remains an option. It remains strong, whether with us or paper or, and explore.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yep.
I had this discussion with Lorinda. I mean, a few days ago, I said to her, I think a client came to her saying that, what they spend on an ad, they can put into Facebook boosting and get all this reach and all these impressions. And I was like, do you have someone that manages that? Because ultimately that is part of your budget. But do you realize on how specific you need to be to get the right people and your customer? If your customer is on Facebook, put your boosting towards Facebook. If you know 100% that all your customers have only ever come from Facebook. But at the same time, you need to understand that there is a downside to Facebook boosting. There is a little bit of a downside to print media. Like, you can't pick one over the other or put them against each other, because marketing as a whole is working together to get, I mean, you say all the big brands are on print media and you go, why? And people go, print is dying. I'm like, no, the big brands just understand they're big brands for a reason. They understand where they need to put their business and they're doing it right. They have these huge marketing budgets allocated because they understand that's how they get in front of their customer, regardless of where it is.
So sometimes they understand. Sometimes they waste
every now and then
a ton of money.
Yeah, and it's across the board. And so, Tim, with Roxy's interjection on my comment there, you'll understand as we go to why she will take this business over one day. Because clearly, you know, she's way smarter and more intelligent and more articulate than I am.
I've got it all. You've just got print media and I've just got it all.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, it's in the stable.
The
Roxy.
best of all the genes.
Let's not go there. This is not the forum for arguing with your dad. I might just kill your camera, Sage. Tim, we're going to wrap with you as we wrap up. What are your takeaways? What can people do?
Yeah, I mean, I want to be as practical as possible here. So, I mean, you know, I've written a few things down here because to sum up, I suppose, our discussion. I think the first thing is you have to be engaged. You, as a business owner, you have to be fully engaged in your business. Okay, and it sounds like an obvious thing, but it actually and common sense. But as we know, common sense isn't always so common. you can't pass off marketing onto so if you get a social media manager or you get someone helping, you can't pass off and expect them to somehow magically come up with, you know, the communication strategy that's going to now deliver success to your business. Okay, you have to 100% be engaged and drive that process. They are merely there to execute and guide and kind of fine tune, but they can't develop what your brand is all about, the essence of that vivid description of what you are as a business. So that's number one, be fully engaged, okay? And if you're not going to be engaged on social media or on any other platform and you're just going to palm it off, don't do it, because it'll come through to your customer so clearly. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you have to get the fundamentals then right of your marketing strategy, okay? And when we say fundamentals, each business is different. But if we believe that having a website, for example, is a critical element to be found online and to make sure that people can listen to that messaging and get information, then get your website right. There's no point in going and doing this fantastic print ad that you spend all this money on, and then you direct them through to a website that was designed in 1999, you know, and it isn't updated, and it happens a lot. It happens way more than you think, you know.
Yeah.
So the fundamentals of your business have to be sound. There's no point in going to Ala Belito or any other social media influencer or platform and say, yeah, do this campaign. And then we do this great campaign and it's all lacquer. And then the customer's getting pumped up and then they want to go across and find out more about what this business or brand's all about. And then they go to this stale page where the last post was in February. You know, it doesn't work. So I can't help you if you can't help yourself. So I'd say, absolutely get the fundamentals right. And one tip that I will give you to start get your fundamentals right, go and list on Google My Business, okay? Yeah. Go into Google and type Google My Business and go and list your property, service, or yourself, even if you're an individual sole proprietor, list yourself on Google My Business, okay? It is an incredible search platform that will allow, if you update it, will allow you to post things, updates, business hours, links to your website, and believe it or not, as much as I agree with Rox that Facebook and YouTube and all these other platforms are very good search engine platforms, Google is still the number one, you know, generic search, okay, where people start, certainly in South Africa at this point in time. So if you're not there and you're not visible and you're not using Google, you're not going to be found. So do yourselves a favor, go and find out about that, okay? I try my best to be active on it. We could always be better, but it's a really, really cool platform and it's critical to your business. And you know what? It's actually free. It's just your time. Okay, you can spend money on it, but it's a good place to start. So that's the fundamentals. Okay. The second thing is, the third thing, sorry, is you have to view this whole thing, investment, as a long-term marketing as a long-term investment. Okay. There is no such thing as a quick fix. None of the stuff that we've spoken about today can happen in a week. It happens over a period of time. We have spent 10 years building our brand on the North Coast. There was 55 years before that of the brand being built elsewhere, okay? But we've had to work hard here. And in my previous experience with other customers, that's ultimately what it is. So it's over time, over consistent messaging, consistent giving back, consistent performance, people will build trust and they will use you. So don't think it's a quick fix, really important. And don't go and look at your media channels and cuck on them because you didn't get a buyer or a customer immediately. The second to last thing is, I would say you absolutely have to, as we've spoken about, look after your existing customers. I won't touch more on it than that. It's just a reminder. Find out who your existing customers are, build the platform, build the communication strategy, and go and start talking to your existing customers. You'll be amazed at how much business you can derive from your existing customer base. Reward them, test new products on them. I was chatting with Coops from Yoli's the other day, and him and Nikki are obviously friends of mine, but I love their business. I love their attitude. And it's like, go and speak to your loyal customers, the ones that are spending money with you every day, and go and try a new product on them. I've got this great new chicken pie. We're thinking of bringing it into the thing. Yeah, you're the first to try. We want your opinion. It's amazing. You're like a loyal brand ambassador. We call them disciples in marketing. You're a disciple of our brand. Look after them. So that's my second to last thing. And my final thing is, if you look after them, and if you've done all these other things, ask for testimonials and ask for referrals. It is without a shadow of a doubt the most important and powerful marketing tool that you will ever use in your business. So people often assume if you're a successful business, or if you've kind of got a bit of a following, they kind of assume that you don't need the help. They kind of assume like, oh, well, you know, Tim's okay. Their business is fine. There'll be hundreds, you know, they don't need like my help. You know, who am I, you know? And the reality is that's not true. And there's that sort of adage, you know, the best compliment you can give me, you know, as a business owner or a service provider or whatever, the best compliments is if you can refer me to friends or family. Okay, it's the best thing. And they call it, guys, and I'll give you one tip in asking for testimonials. They call it the universal question. You don't need to give your clients and customers a long
survey.
Okay?
Yeah.
You ask them one question, the universal question. Would you refer my product or service or me to friends and family?
Yeah.
Your friends and family. That's it.
Yeah.
One question. And I promise you guys, if you ask for feedback and you get the testimonials and you get the referrals from, it doesn't matter if your customer base is 4 or it's 400, okay? People want to give their view. They want to help out. You just have to ask them. And then when you've asked them and you've got that content, share the content. Thank them. Put it on social media. Use it in your print campaigns. Send out emails. Put it on your website. Testimonials, guys. And that's the natural follow-on from looking after your customers. So those are my takeaways, hopefully practical things that I genuinely think people should focus on.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
I'm going to interrupt and just say, just on the testimonials, maybe also, because I know you say share them, but also use those as knowledge going forward if you need to adapt and change something. I mean, if someone says to you, I loved all of this, but I'm unhappy with this, it's not them criticizing your business. You're asking them for feedback and they're giving it to you. Take it as knowledge. If 5 people tell you that, don't go share that on social media and just say, oh yeah, look how great I am, but I suck in this area. Make a change. Go to them in 3 months and say, hi, like we want you to test it out. We want to hear if we've improved. So like, could you give me another testimonial and share that to how you have improved? Like, don't just take it as, I just want you to tell me something great. Like sometimes people are going to give you some necessary criticism, and just maybe take that and learn from it.
Awesome. So
Wise
my takeaways.
words.
Yeah, she's killing it today. I'm just
Very
super
wise.
impressed. It was quiet in the morning, but just started to speed up there, Rox. So I got to wrap. One of the things I want to wrap in just saying, guys, so thank you so much to the panel and my friends. One of the things I realized is we end up speaking far more about anything that was cost related, you know, in terms of the cost and budget behind marketing. And think about what we spoke about. You know, we spoke about know your brands, know your messaging, a lot of things you need to do that are marketing functions before figuring out the channel, which is generally where the cost is. You know, and I think hopefully people would have taken away little things that they realize they're not doing, from the testimonials, Tim, and all your stuff to the stuff you've discussed, Rox. So, you know, the channel is where we got to get to. You've got to get the message out, but there's a lot of prep work. And I think I was very surprised just listening to you guys and chatting today that we forget about it. You know, we instantly go to where do I put the budget and how do we spend it, as opposed to how do we prep, understand, get insights, create stories, you know, be authentic and create trust. And so that's been absolutely awesome. To Tim, I'll hopefully see you next week. We'll figure out the next webinar. It's been absolutely fantastic for 5. Roxy, it's been great. Really, really stoked to have you in front of the camera. So thank you for spending the time with us. Thanks, guys. We're going to wrap it up.
Appreciate having you.
Anytime. Cool. Until the next one, Tim. Rox, cheers.
Yeah.
Sage, you can count us out in 3. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Bye,
everyone.
guys.
Bye.